We're all facing this set of massive, interconnected global challenges. Things like climate change, social fragmentation. It feels like our current ways of organizing ourselves are just struggling to keep up. But what if the problem isn't that we lack solutions? What if we just lack coordination? Today, we're going to explore a blueprint for a whole new way to work together on a planetary scale.
All right, let's really frame the core problem here. On one side, you've got our institutions, governments, industries, NGOs, and they're often working in their own little bubbles, in their own silos. But on the other side, you have these huge challenges that just don't care about borders. This polycrisis, as folks are calling it, is all tangled together. Think about it. If you want to tackle climate change by shifting away from fossil fuels, that's going to impact jobs, which creates social challenges. It's all connected. And this mismatch between siloed action and connected problems, well, that's what leads to coordination failure. So, how do we get from where we are to where we need to be? We're going to map out this whole journey. First, we'll dig a little deeper into that coordination problem. Then, we'll get into what this thing called meta-governance actually is. And finally, we'll walk through a three-phase plan for how you could bring this vision to life, starting small and scaling all the way up.
Okay, so first things first, why do we even need a new model? What's really holding our current systems back? Well, the root issue is this deep systemic misalignment. Our dominant economic models are often laser-focused on short-term growth, and our governance models were built for a world of separate nation-states. They just weren't designed for the complex, interconnected planet we live on today. And this creates something called institutional inertia, which is a fancy way of saying that even when people have the best intentions, the systems themselves are just stuck, and they resist the kind of massive, coordinated action we desperately need.
So, with that problem in mind, let's look at the proposed solution, a blueprint for what's called meta-governance. And try not to think of it as some new world order, but more like a new operating system for how we all work together.
And I think this quote just nails the core idea. We're not talking about some top-down authority telling everyone what to do. It's a scaffold, right? A support structure. It's this enabling framework that helps all the existing groups coordinate what they're doing and, really importantly, transform themselves from the inside out. No one's forcing change on them. So here's the crucial point. Meta-governance is literally the governance of governance systems. It doesn't replace national sovereignty or get rid of existing institutions. No. It acts as a facilitation layer. It's kind of like a universal translator that helps all these different systems finally talk to each other, line up their goals, and learn from one another. It's all about breaking down those silos we were just talking about. And just to be crystal clear, this is not a centralized world government. It's not one single point of control. It's an adaptive coordination ecosystem. You know a great analogy? Think about the Sabre system. It coordinates the entire global airline industry. Flights, baggage, hotels, the whole shebang. But it doesn't own a single plane or control any single airline. It's just the infrastructure that creates coherence. So, how in the world does an idea this massive actually get started? Well, you don't try to build the whole thing at once. You start small with focused pilot projects. This first phase is all about building the basic tools and just proving the concept can work. It starts by deploying a core collaboration platform. The document calls it a synergy engine, but you can just think of it as a digital tool that helps different groups map out their goals, find where they overlap, and coordinate their projects. Then you get some pilot communities to test it out and partner with universities to analyze the data. The whole point here is to show real practical value and, most importantly, build trust. Right, this initial stage is all about creating what are called islands of coherence. These are basically small-scale examples that show, hey, look, this new way of collaborating actually works. And the success of these pilots isn't just about the technology. It's about building that human trust and legitimacy. That is absolutely essential if the system is ever going to grow. Okay, now let's move on to phase 2. This is where we see how the system starts to scale up from those little pilots. This is where we go from isolated islands to truly interconnected ecosystems. So in phase 2, those successful islands of coherence start connecting to each other. Imagine a hub that's focused on restoring a major river basin. It could connect city governments, agricultural companies, and environmental nonprofits all across the region. They start sharing data, aligning their efforts, and suddenly you have these regional hubs coordinating big projects across different sectors. This is where the network really starts to take shape. And this visual really shows the power of this phase. Each institution, a city government, a university, a corporation, plugs into the network as an independent but interoperable node. Think of it like a universal adapter. They get to keep their own identity, their own way of doing things, but now they can share data, align their goals, and coordinate actions with the entire network seamlessly. And it's this cross-sector collaboration that makes these hubs so powerful. For instance, universities can bring in the cutting-edge research. Governments can then use that data to create smart policies and build the right infrastructure. Meanwhile, the private sector can fund and develop the cool new tech we need, and civil society groups can make sure local communities are actually involved and that the solutions work for everyone. Each one has a vital, interconnected role to play. And finally, we get to the mature state of the system in Phase 3. This is where that network of regional hubs evolves into a truly global, integrated system. At this stage, the whole network can pretty much function like a planetary nervous system. It could use planetary sensors and AI to analyze real-time data on everything from environmental health to economic activity. This allows our governance to shift from being slow and reactive to being anticipatory, seeing problems coming and getting ahead of them. It lets us organize effective, collective responses to global issues as they emerge. And this image just captures the ultimate goal perfectly, a learning civilization. This kind of network allows humanity to learn from itself. An insight from one region, let's say a new technique for sustainable farming in Southeast Asia, could rapidly inform and support the entire system. We could all adapt to complexity together without ever needing a centralized top-down command structure telling us what to do. So this timeline really wraps up the entire journey nicely. It starts with Phase 1, building that trust and proving the concept with small pilots. It scales up in Phase 2, engaging big institutions and creating those regional hubs. And finally, it matures in Phase 3 into a fully integrated global network for planetary coordination. You know, if there's one crucial takeaway from all of this, it's this. The goal of meta-governance is not to centralize power. It's not about controlling everything from one place. The purpose is coherence. It's about enabling all the different parts of our global society to finally work together in harmony, creating synergy instead of all that friction. Which leaves us with a final provocative thought. We spend so much time and energy trying to solve these massive problems like climate change or poverty. But what if we already have most of the solutions we need, just scattered across thousands of different organizations all over the world? What if the only thing that's really missing is the blueprint to connect them all?